What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Lineman Life podcast. I'm your observant lineman, Uche Nwaneri. And today we got quite a number of things to talk about, especially out of the NFL. This is, let's see here, a big day. Wednesdays, first day of the work week in the NFL. And we got some new starters at the quarterback position. We got Joe Flacco out of New York with the Jets. And we got Kyle Allen from the Washington football team. Now, we're going to look into this whole situation with Dwayne Haskins because, I'm really indifferent to it. The team's not going to be a good team this year. I think everybody pretty much expects that it's going to be the beginning of a rebuild with Ron Rivera at the head coach position. They've got a great coaching staff in place, so they've got the building blocks. They're getting the foundation set for the Redskins as a team. I'm sorry, the Washington football team. But they've got the foundation set with their coaching staff. Ron Rivera is a good coach. They got Jack Del Rio as their defense coordinator. He was my head coach in Jacksonville. Great coach. They've got things in place right now, and they're trying to find their quarterback. That's the next move for them, to find their quarterback. Who is going to be the quarterback of the Washington football team? That's where they're at. I mean, I think it's pretty safe to say that. We're going to take a look at an article here in a second. But aside from that, with the Washington football team, you've got the Jets. Sam Darnold is injured he has a shoulder injury, and Bill O'Brien fired by the Houston Texans. And I've got a lot to say about that, but we're going to get into that in a moment. Also, Matt Patricia. Matt Patricia is a person that should be on a flaming, engulfed in flames, just total nuclear option hot seat right now. Like, this guy is barely won any games in Detroit, and somehow he's still a head coach. While you look at Bill O'Brien, a lot more wins, a lot more success, a couple of critical errors that likely led to his demise as a head coach. But Matt Patricia still has the head coaching title on a team that just really doesn't look like it has any direction. So let's start off. Let's talk a little bit about this Dwayne Haskins. And I'm going to share this screen so you guys can see the article that I'm on. All right, so here we go. Bleacher Report, they're talking about Dwayne Haskins. Now, I'm not going to claim to be one that really knows a ton about what their stats look like right now as a team, but I mean, what are they, 1-4, I believe, or 1-3, I believe they are. And with their only win coming over the Eagles, and it just hasn't been, any much of a year, but are we surprised? That's the real question, right? So this article starts off that the Washington football team is making a quarterback change, with Kyle Allen taking over the starting role from Dwayne Haskins for Sunday's Week 5 game against Los Angeles Rams at FedEx Field. This was reported on Instagram, and we're going to go through some of the Instagram replies as well, because those are gold. Those are classic. There's people who are upset. There are people who are making fun of it. There are people who aren't necessarily surprised, but we'll go through that in a moment. It says, in addition, Alex Smith will move into the backup role, with Haskins sliding down to number 3 on the depth chart. Haskins posted mediocre numbers through the season's first 4 games. He completed 61% of his throws for 939 yards with 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. And he had 30 rushing yards and a score on the ground. I mean, really, for a second-year guy, a guy who really was, really, I would consider this his rookie year. Last year was a year that was just completely maligned and utter irrelevance. And, their offensive line was terrible last year. A lot of guys on that line wouldn't be starting on many other teams in the NFL. And he was out there. He was thrown to the sharks. He was thrown in the deep end, and he sunk for the most part. So why is it? Why are we holding that against him when he didn't have anything around him in way of an actual foundation, a core, to give him the ability to grow as a player? He never had that. Whoops. He never had that. Crap. Let me make this bigger. There we go. He never had, the framework to be successful in Washington, and that framework, when you're talking about building a framework for a quarterback, obviously the biggest piece and the first piece that you need is a left tackle. You need a left tackle. You need an offensive line. Then you need to give him weapons to throw the ball to. So obviously you start prioritizing receivers. They didn't have any of that last season. None of that whatsoever. So how exactly are we supposed to believe that he's not worthy of being the starter right now? Present to me something from a factual end that I can look at when you compare him to his peers among those in the league. That is going to be the true measuring stick as to what is he, where is his progression right now as a player? Where is his progression going? And how does it stack up against other players who are in at least a somewhat similar position? Because you can't compare Dwayne Haskins, his ability as a starter to Aaron Rodgers. You can't compare that because Aaron Rodgers has a fully fleshed out offense that knows what it is, knows where it's going, knows what it wants to get done. Washington has none of those. They have the coaches that are building a new culture there. But for right now, they don't have any of these things that an offense like Green Bay has. They don't have any of these things, even like an offense like the Cowboys have, who, by the way, have the same record with a quarterback that is probably considered worlds above Haskins in his skill set. So they have the same records. Yeah, now you look at their statistics compared 1-to-1, obviously Dak Prescott is doing a lot more with his time on the field than Dwayne Haskins is. But Dak Prescott has been the quarterback there in Dallas for how long? That's an offense that knows, for the most part, what they want to do, where they want to go. And their offense has been one that has been in place and pretty similar, even with Mike Martz as their head coach. That offense has been in place with the same pieces long enough to have chemistry, to have trust, to have to have a more gelled and unified operative focus than you would get with the Washington football team. That's just indisputable. So, you go from that team to the team that they beat in their same division. You go to the Eagles. The Eagles are a team that's wading in the waters right now because they're on the verge of sinking. Carson Wentz had a good performance. He had a good performance on Monday night, but what does that mean? What does that really mean? It's really a situation that boils down to when you're looking to build a culture in your franchise or the Washington football team. You've got your small goals, which lead to your big goals. Your small goals here are going to be a competitive team, which honestly, they're competitive. They're competitive. I don't so much have an issue with how they're playing with all the expectations that we didn't have for them. They got to win they got to win early in the season on week 1. They haven't won since, but they've been finding their identity somewhat. And, at the end of the day, their goal right now is to be competitive. Then from being competitive, their next goal will probably be to compete for their division crown. Then from your division crown, you're talking about you win a playoff game. Then from win a playoff game, you're talking about get to your conference championship. Then from your conference championship, it's obviously get to the Super Bowl. So there's a path that Washington is going to take in those steps, but you can't necessarily, after one season that was nearly just a complete and utter just an anomaly of irrelevance. I mean, they were so irrelevant, that they almost won the division. but this is really, to me, it's a weird situation for Dwayne Haskins to be in. But let's look, and continue on in this article. It says here, he ranked last among the 32 qualified quarterbacks in ESPN's total QBR with a 30.6 and received 47.2 overall grade from Pro Football Focus. 15th overall pick in the 2019 draft, threw for 314 yards in Washington's 31-17 loss to the Baltimore Ravens last week, but failed to throw a touchdown for the fourth time in 11 career starts. I got to have the confidence in myself every week. This week, I wanted to forget whatever happened previously, block out the noise, and most importantly, have fun and trust what we're doing schematically. I trust my teammates. I did that day, and I did that today, and then it translates on a lot of players where we had some conversions, some big gains, and some tone plays. Oh, it's hard for me to talk right now. ESPN's Dan Orlovsky didn't believe Haskins was the main problem, though. And this is, and this is obviously we're looking at Twitter here, but Orlovsky says that Haskins had 2 missed reads, one on a zero blitz, which, look, a zero blitz should be, if you recognize you're getting a zero blitz, which you would recognize that if you're studying your film, then you're going to get that ball off to your blitz read, because a zero blitz means everything's man coverage. So at the very least, you're going to have a run back popping out into the flat, or a tight end that's running a quick route, a quick out or something like that to the sidelines or to the hash where you've got the most room. Those are things you set up in practice, So you should have those. He should have a zero blitz read. Every quarterback has a zero blitz read. He had one missed read on a protection change, poor by him. So he changed the protection that got him sacked. Well, it's good that he says that, because a lot of times that gets blamed on the offensive line. He had 2 missed throws, one on a check down and one on a slant to McLaurin. Yeah, I wouldn't. He says the QB isn't the problem. Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. Now, look, there could be a number of different reasons why he's being benched that they're not talking about, but and I'll kind of go into that here in a second. But let's finish this article. It says, regardless, Washington is going to give Allen a chance to secure the starting job. He previously played under head coach Ron Rivera with the Carolina Panthers over the last 2 seasons. That's huge. The 24-year-old University of Houston product posted a 62.1% completion rate for 3,588 yards, 19 touchdowns, 16 interceptions in 15 games, 13 starts for the Panthers. Now, we got to look at that as well. That's an important set of information. This data here is pretty important, because Ron Rivera's system that he had, their overall offensive system that he had in Carolina, a lot of elements of that is probably going to be translated into what the Washington football team is doing. But the issue also is that with the system that they have, Haskins should have been a great fit for that. He should be a great fit for that. It's coming from they're running a kind of Cam Newton-esque offense to a certain extent. So he should be good for that. That should be something that he should have adapted to pretty quickly. So it says here, he'll try to provide a spark for a Washington squad that ranks 30th in both total offense and scoring offense through a quarter of the regular season. Allen's first start of the campaign will come against the Rams defense that is ranked 13th in total defense and 6th in scoring defense. Well, it's going to be he's got his work cut out for him, it appears. Well, real quick, let's get to a couple of these super chats right here. It says from Christopher Arcella, $20 super chat. Appreciate that, Christopher. He says, hey, Uche, I just want to super chat. Tell you I'm very sorry about the joke I made on Sunday's Mario Kart. I felt bad about it. Want to apologize to you sincerely. You're awesome, and I hope all is good. Hey, Christopher, I appreciate that. I'll be honest with you. I don't remember what you said, but if you felt bad enough that you wanted to leave a super chat for that, then, you know, that's just all's good in that regard. I got no ill will. I got no, no animosity, no anger or anything like that. I don't even remember. So it's all good, man. Mark Brennan for $1.99 says, sup, Uche. What's up, Mark? What's going on, buddy? Okay, so let's check out a little bit. Let's check out some of these. Let's check out how Twitter responded to this. I think that's something that's worth taking a look at here. So, okay, let me share it. Okay. All right. Now, we know this is going to be interesting. It's going to be fun to look at. Let me zoom in some so you guys can see it. Let's see. All right. So, Twitter responds. Let's see. Y'all bench him after 10 games, but Daniel Jones won 3 games in 2 years and throws hella picks. It's because he's white. He gets that privilege. That's all I'm going to say about that. And if you're benching Haskins for playing bad, what y'all benching, when y'all benching who? Anyways, look, I will say this. Daniel Jones is not a member of the Washington football team. Different coaching staffs, different levels of considering, what exactly is good play or bad play. Now, I will say, in my personal opinion, in the few times that I've actually seen film from Dwayne Haskins, he just doesn't look like anything. He just looks like a player on the field throwing the ball. I didn't see any kind of outstanding traits. Like Justin Herbert is an example of a player who caught my eye with his play, with his natural playing style. Justin Herbert against the best quarterback in the history of the NFL, potentially, arguably. Championship-wise, indisputable. But this dude, for the Los Angeles Chargers, had an amazing game against Tom Brady. Now, Tyrod Taylor is the starter of that Los Angeles Chargers team, but we already know that clock is absolutely ticking. And if this kid keeps playing like this, he may not get his starting spot back. And that's just how it's going to be. Because this player who they wanted to sit and allow him to learn, as through this season and to be able to pretty much set him up to be the franchise QB in the right way, which I commend the Chargers for doing, because that's what needs to be done. The Miami Dolphins, same way. Don't throw these rookies out there to get just beat on, especially when you ain't got all the pieces in place for him to be successful. The Chargers have looked at him and said, let's get him ready the right way. We're not in a rush. Let's do it right so we have longevity with him, not, a situation like a player like Blaine Gabbert. Blaine Gabbert is probably one of the most least known tragedies of the NFL. People don't realize that guy was actually pretty good and he got screwed. And when you get screwed how he got screwed, his entire mentality for football changed. But this situation with Justin Herbert is an example of a young guy coming out and being ready to play. Even in a situation that really wasn't ideal. It's not what they wanted to do, but they had to, and they put him in, and he performed. You can tell in his play that his style of playing football is just it's so natural. Dwayne Haskins does not look natural on the football field. And that's why a lot of his, that's why he's got mediocre stats. He's got mediocre, and I'm talking about he's got borderline mediocre. 2 more picks and he's awful. 2 more picks and he's awful. But I'm not gonna, just pile on him and say that he doesn't have the ability to be a franchise quarterback. I'm just saying right now with what he's been doing and just looking at, a couple of the bad reads that they said that he made, that Orlovsky said he made, but he made a bad read on basic stuff, and that's where teams and coaches will get frustrated that you're not getting the easy stuff right. Stop focusing on what's hard and get your basics down. He's been moved to the 3rd quarterback position. He's 3rd. That's not good. That means he's messing up in practice. He's throwing picks in practice. So he's 3rd quarterback now, behind Alex Smith and Kyle Allen. So, we'll see how it plays out. But, just one or two more of these responses here. And okay, we got one here. It says, all y'all Haskins wasn't given a chance, folks. Need to sit down. This is a business, and business is about results. Good QBs overcome talent challenges around them. Bad QBs throw checkdowns on 4th and goal. Okay. Okay, there's a lot of, there's pretty much, there's a sentiment that this isn't a fair shake for him. And here's something right here. Rivera just lost respect from players and from me. Don't say you're supportive of Haskins and then bench him after playing a fine game. Let him develop. I highly doubt that Kyle Allen will be any better. Much of the problems is on a weak O-line. Anyway, all QBs will struggle right now. There's some truth to that. But just to kind of, bring it back to, what happens on the football field and how things play out behind the scenes when, after the games, during practice, after practice, things y'all won't see, because you're fans. You're going to see reports from people who are reporting, beat reporters, stuff like that. Adam Schefter, those people, they're going to send you out these tidbits of insider info. But look, a lot more goes on behind the scenes than even those guys know. And when a quarterback gets switched, the way he's getting switched, it's because really at the end of the day, when I look at this situation, Rivera don't want him. And Rivera is giving him a chance to show him what his style is. Show me what you play like. When even outside of, are you doing the right things? Are you making the right reads? Show me what you play like. The kind of quarterback that Ron Rivera is used to seeing play, and the kind of quarterback that he is probably more inclined to look for his franchise is someone who has a similar or adaptable style to somebody like Cam Newton. Because that's what he has experienced the most success with in his time as a head coach. And when he was a head coach in Carolina, Carolina had weapons, but didn't have overwhelming offensive power. But the quarterback made the difference. And in this situation, he wanted to see, in my opinion, what innate experience and style does Dwayne Haskins have, and does it really affect the team's ability to be successful? And it looks like the answer is no. It looks like the answer is he doesn't have the kind of style in his play that Ron Rivera wants. Now, Kyle Allen, do we know if he's going to do anything? No. Is there a good chance he will? No. Honestly, I would have said put in Alex Smith and let's see him, the comeback player of the year already, in my opinion. Let's see him play. If you're going to bench Haskins, bench him for the guy who actually was a leader for the team prior to his injury, a guy who had a team that was actually competing and competitive to be a division winner. Let's let's have Alex Smith take a shot at it. Why not? Right? That's what I would think if I were the head coach in Washington. So, with all that being said, let's see how it plays out. Let's see how it plays out. I'm not going to sit here and say that I think it's going to be a situation that is. I'm not sitting here saying I think it's a situation that's just totally unjust. There is, the ball just bounces that way sometimes in the league. I mean, it might not be right to the average everyday viewer, but it's definitely, that's how this league operates. It's how this league works. You produce or you don't, and sometimes it doesn't even matter if you produce. It matters whether or not you fit what it is they want. That's just the way it is. Sad to say, but that's it. All right, now next, let's talk a little bit about. Let's see here. So, oops. Okay. So we've got a hurricane situation, and this is a side note, kind of. We've got a hurricane situation, and the Monday Night Football game might get moved to Lucas Oil Field if the Saints and the Chargers aren't able to play, because New Orleans tends to like to get destroyed by hurricanes every year. So that's something that people should keep an eye out for as far as news goes in the NFL. I really do believe that one team that we just really kind of I don't know that we overlooked this team, but I just didn't expect them to start off as hot as they did, is the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo Bills, what is it? What are they? Bills Mafia? Bills Mob? What do y'all call yourselves? The Bills Mafia? Something like that. The Buffalo Bills right now are, for me, they're my dark horse to get to the Super Bowl. I think that if there is one team, looking at what they produced so far as a team in the NFL, when I look at what they're doing, when I look at that offense, when I look at how well their defense is actually playing, I seriously think that they're the one team that's capable of bringing down the Kansas City Chiefs. So you heard that from me here first. I am actually of the mindset that the Buffalo Bills are my dark horse to make it to the Super Bowl. They'll be the team to beat the Chiefs if they get to the AFC title game. Now, does that mean that the Chiefs are locked in? No. But these guys are playing lights out right now. I mean, Josh Allen has 1,300 yards. He's got 12 touchdowns, a QBR rating, 89.8. The guy is on fire. The offense they understand their identity, and that's got a ton to do with it. They know who they are. They know what they can do, and they go out and they execute that way. And that, for me, that's a big sign. That's a big sign in a team being ready to take that next step. Josh Allen is taking substantial steps in his play since he came into the NFL, and now, it's time. Now it's time for them to get something done. The decades of mediocrity to terrible play it looks like it's coming to an end. Looks like it's coming to an end for the Buffalo Bills. I mean, Josh Allen is a second-rated quarterback in the NFL in yardage. I mean, it's the guy is a freaking freak. He's a freaking freak. The dude's built like a running back, plays like a quarterback, and plays like a running back. He's number 2 in the league as a quarterback right now in the NFL. He's got more. Dak Prescott has more passing yards, but Josh Allen has more touchdowns. He has 12 touchdowns to 1 interception. That should be all you need to know to see that this guy is real deal this year. He was real deal last year too. But but I think that the Bills are definitely the squad to watch. They're a dark horse. Not many people are going to give them much credence. The NFL is a show me league for teams like Buffalo. Teams like Jacksonville, teams like Miami, teams like Tampa Bay. They get attention now because of Tom Brady, but really Tampa Bay is a show me team in the NFL. And show me means you need to win like 4 or 5 games in a row before we start talking about you. Because we don't believe you until you get that far. We don't believe you. But I do believe that, in my opinion, that is my dark horse squad. That's a squad that I am going to be keeping an eye on every single week with interest, because I'm rooting for them. I want them to do well. But that is, the team is, and I'm looking at some of their stats right here. I'm looking at some of their stats. Whoops. There we go. They've got the 4th ranked offense, 2nd ranked passing offense. Let's see what their defense is looking like. Their defense is middle of the pack. Well, bottom of the middle of the pack. Their defense is what? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Their offense, their defense is 20th in the league. Now, that can be a little bit deceiving depending on if they gave up a bunch of points in one game, a bunch of yards in one game. But as I look here, they actually look like they're more, from their stats, they look like they're more middle of the pack, because a lot of teams have given up a lot of yards. And they're right. They're kind of right in the middle. I think their defense is probably a little bit better than the stats may tell you. But I'm actually going to be doing a breakdown on their offense in my next O-line breakdown, because one thing I noticed is I've been watching film on the Buffalo Bills is that they've got a lot of their offensive line provides a solid pocket for Josh Allen to pass out of almost all the time. I don't see a lot of linemen getting beat. How many times has he been sacked? Let's see here. Okay. See here, they got the 2nd ranked offense, giving up 9 sacks. So that probably has something to do with the fact that their quarterback moves around a lot. A lot of people think that it's a true blessing to have a mobile quarterback, but it's a double-edged sword. Having a mobile quarterback means there's going to be times when he actually bails you out and saves you from giving up a sack with his mobility. But then there's other times where, a mobile quarterback kind of like, just goes with it, runs and can set himself up to get sacked because he's mobile. He tries to kind of fade like he's going to, stay in the pocket, not knowing that the defensive linemen or the defensive ends are actually like trying to keep him in the pocket. They're not trying to penetrate the pocket. And they'll try to rush outside and get outside of it, and they get swallowed up and sacked. I've seen that's happened to Dave Garrard a few times when I played. Like he'd gotten out of sacks before because of his mobility, but shoot, sometimes he ran right into sacks. Like I'm blocking a guy, I've got my defensive tackle blocked 2-3 yards out of the pocket, like that way, and then I just disengage, and then there's Dave running right into him. I'm like, what the hell? Like, we're not even in. Like I got him dominated out here. What are you doing? Why are you running over here? But that can happen with quarterbacks, and he does. He reminds me a little bit of Dave. He's got some of that. He's the thick quarterback, big quarterback. Dave wasn't tall like him, but definitely, has a good ability to escape the pocket, but that can work against you sometimes as well. But I'm going to do a breakdown on their offensive line because those guys are solid. I've seen a lot of consistency in how they block, And I really do think that, it needs to kind of be pointed out that a lot of their success right now has to do with the way that offensive line is playing. So we'll definitely, you should definitely keep an eye out for that. Make sure you're smashing that like button. If you haven't done so, which I'm sure most of you have, subscribe to the channel. And, we do this every Wednesday around 3 p.m. But this is, basically me going through a lot of the news in the NFL and, just kind of giving you guys my perspective as a player, as somebody who played many years in the league. Definitely want you guys to see that there's usually a story beyond the story, and a lot of covering the NFL. But Buffalo definitely going to be a team that I'm going to be kind of dissecting a little bit and breaking down for you guys here in the future. Now, next, Baltimore Ravens are having a little bit of an issue from Lamar Jackson. And I don't think this is a big deal, but I think that it was probably something that he probably should have kept quiet about. Maybe not came out and talked about it in the public, but I'm old school like that with NFL culture. So I really don't think you bring a lot of those issues to the forefront, especially when you're a player like him, a guy who has overcome some obstacles within the perception about him as a quarterback early in his career. He stomped on all those misconceptions, in his last season with an MVP season, reigning NFL MVP. And he is the unquestioned leader of the Baltimore football Ravens. So I'm a little disappointed that he brought this out into the light the way he did. And I'm going to share this. Let me share this screen with you guys so you can see it. It's an article on ESPN. And it says that Baltimore QB Lamar Jackson not happy with Ravens passing offense. And we'll go through the article real quick. It says Lamar Jackson has led the Baltimore Ravens to a 3-1 start, but the reigning MVP didn't try to put a positive spin on the team ranking 31st in the NFL passing, which is pretty bad, obviously. They're ranked 31st. They're second to last. He says, no, I'm not happy because I would like to connect with my guys on those passes. Jackson said Wednesday, I feel like there are a lot of yards and touchdowns we've been leaving on the field when we don't connect. That's probably why our passing isn't where it's supposed to be, but I feel it's early in the season. No reigning MVP quarterback has finished lower than 27th in passing. There have only been 4 instances when a reigning NFL MVP QB had finished worse or finished 20th or worse in passing. Joe Theismann in 1983, Rich Gannon in 2002, Aaron Rodgers in 2015, Cam Newton in 2015, and Cam Newton. The Ravens have averaged 180 yards passing. Only the New York Jets are worse. This is a decrease from 2019 when Baltimore finished 27th in passing. Ravens coach John Harbaugh said producing 300 yards passing per game is not the team's standard for success. There are a lot of things we can get better at. Harbaugh said, you work on all those things all the time and try to improve as best you can. We understand what the issues are, and we study them very closely. It's not something I really want to broadcast. And hence, there is why I kind of said what I said. You don't broadcast these kind of things to the media because what happens? It becomes a headline, as we all see. Now it's a headline that he doesn't like what's going on with their passing offense. Well, Lamar, Baltimore is not a passing team. Y'all aren't a team that passes the ball. Y'all run the ball. Y'all do very well at running the ball. And you play good defense. You pass intermittently, and you're not, this isn't an offense that's taking 6-7 deep shots throughout the game. Once you start doing that, you're not the Baltimore Ravens anymore. That's not your identity. That's not what the squad is built upon. That's not the pieces. The pieces weren't put together for you guys to throw the ball a ton. The pieces were put together for you guys to pass the ball and to pass it well. And, I really do think that in his situation, he would be better served to just continue to work on his craft. This is something that, guys feel way too comfortable coming out and talking about, I think, now in the NFL. Like a quarterback, you are the leader of the team. You bear on your shoulders a lot of the public's perception of that team each and every week in the NFL. And he is definitely a class player, He's got a good head on his shoulders, and he's about, making things happen and winning games. He wants a championship. We know that. But, this situation, I just feel like you bring these things up in meetings, you bring them up with coaches, you bring them up with players, you talk to guys, in the building, and then you let the progress and the improvement take place on the field on Sundays. Don't give fodder for headlines over things that really are part of, that's just part of how this franchise is set up. It's not a team that's designed to take advantage of passing the ball all the time. But to continue on, it says Jackson's accuracy has improved slightly. His completion rate is 68.4%, which is up from 66.1% last year. Biggest problem has been connecting on his deep throws, which was the focus of his in the offseason. Jackson has completed 5 of 16 passes, 31% that have traveled at least 20 yards in the air, which ranks 26th in the NFL. We're just not hitting them, Jackson said. We just to get in practice and start connecting there. We need to just get in practice and start connecting there. And then it will transition over to the game. We'll be fine. So he already knows the answers to these questions. So why are you talking about it? Jackson rushing has declined as well. He averaged 80 yards a game last season. Now he's averaging 58.8 this season. This is the thing. Like, just looking at what's going on with him, I mean, honestly, he knows the answers. He knows what the issue is. He knows what the answers are. Now, when you look at that, he's moving away from what they are. He's trying to move away from what they are, which is not a great recipe when you're trying to get back to the position you guys were in last year, because last year was a huge disappointment. I think all things considered, you guys were in a position that you put yourselves exactly where you wanted to be. You had to bye the first week, and then you came out in the divisional round and you pissed down your leg and gave away, a chance to get to the Super Bowl. But this year, you're trying to move yourself and what you have stated that you are as an offense, a power running, option running, short pass throwing offense, and you're trying to transition yourself into a power running, option running, short pass throwing, deep pass throwing offense. So you're trying to be the master of all. And we all know how that plays out when you try to be the master of all. You become, the master of nothing. You're going to lose sight of what it is you guys really are good at. And I know, I just have to think it has something to do with his somewhat, I would even say on a subconscious level, he has a competitive drive and a rivalry with Patrick Mahomes. I feel like I feel like that's there. I feel like he directly compares himself to Patrick Mahomes in everything that he does. And you see Patrick Mahomes out there launching that thing around, just dropping dimes all over the field. It doesn't even matter how far it is. He'll go end zone to end zone on a pass. And they're catching these things, and they're scoring, and they're explosive, and they're dominant. That Kansas City offense is a dominant offense, an overwhelmingly powerful offense. How do you stop them, right? So He's in his head about that. I think that's why he wants to pass the ball deep. That's why he wants to get working on those things. But you got to take your time with that because, in a lot of cases, you can either throw the ball deep or you can't. I don't think that I think it's harder to say that. I think it's harder to say that a quarterback can get really good at throwing deep balls. You can get a little bit better, but if you're not already good at placing that thing, it's going to be hard to get really good at placing it all of a sudden. But I think he's in his head a little bit there. I think he needs to kind of stay within what he has developed himself into becoming. Like, he is an elite level quarterback because of his elusiveness, because of his ability to be accurate in the intermediate game, and because of their running prowess in Baltimore and their solid defense that backs them up. I don't think you're going to turn this offense into a spread offense. It just doesn't work like that. So I would say to Lamar Jackson, just stay with what you know right now and learn to polish up other aspects of your game more in the offseason. That way the offense can actually evolve with you in the offseason to take advantage of those things. Or once they know that that skill is now developing and becoming more useful. Like right now, I don't need him throwing deep balls if I'm the head coach. I'm like, no, we're not going 40 yards down the field on one play. You can run 40 yards down the field on one play, and it's the same thing. You do it all the time. So why not? Stick with where you are the strongest when the season starts. Don't try to change who you are during the season because you're going to make the whole house of cards come down crumbling. You know what I mean? So with him, I think that's really where Lamar Jackson should keep his mindset, because he's got everything that he needs. He's got everything that he needs. Stop trying to be other teams. And be the Baltimore Ravens. Be the Baltimore Ravens. So now, okay, so this is actually this is kind of breaking right here, but let me share this with y'all. I didn't see this. Let me share this. All right, let's see it. Maybe you guys have seen it. I'm usually late when it comes to breaking news, but let's see. Sources: Houston Texans J.J. Watt had heated exchange with Bill O'Brien. Now, for those of you who don't know, but I'm sure most of you do, Bill O'Brien was fired by the Houston Texans. I think this makes a lot of people in Houston kind of happy for that. I think that there was a lot missing from this Houston Texans team with how Bill O'Brien decided to move forward after we'll just call it the trade. Because I'll be honest, that might have been the dumbest trade in the history of football. I mean, that's like trading Deion Sanders in 1994 when he was with the 49ers. That would never happen. You would never trade him. He either leaves or he stays, but you ain't trading him for what? That's like the Jacksonville Jaguars trading Jalen Ramsey. Well, Jalen Ramsey wanted out, and they knew it, and they tried to save it. There's no way they could save it. He was determined to get out, and that just ended up being what it was. But let's look at this article here. J.J. Watt, Bill O'Brien got into some beef. Seems like when that happens with players and coaches, next thing you know, one of them's gone. So it says here, Bill O'Brien got into a heated exchange with Houston Texans star J.J. Watt during a recent practice. Watt on Wednesday said he has no ill will toward O'Brien, but he is looking forward to a fresh start. Keyword being but. after the coach / general manager was fired following the Texans' loss to the Minnesota Vikings on Sunday. The incident, which also included defensive coordinator Anthony Weaver, took place in the week leading up to the winless Texans' Week 3 loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Texans fell to 0-4 with their loss this past Sunday to the Vikings, and O'Brien was fired as head coach and general manager a day later. I am still quite confused as to how he was able to secure being the head coach and the GM. He had all the power, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Sources confirmed to ESPN that a verbal blow-up at practice occurred 2 weeks ago, with one source telling ESPN that the incident was when O'Brien lost the team. Ooh, yeah. That sucks. Romeo Crennel was named interim coach heading into this week's game against the Jaguars. I do think there's an energy and excitement, and we're looking forward to going out and getting a win and getting going 1-0. That's our goal, Watt said. Watt said after the loss to Minnesota that the Texans obviously have to do something different. We're 0-4. Whatever we're doing isn't working. Watt, a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, said Sunday, something needs to change. Something needs to be different. Yeah, I think that once you get into arguments with J.J. Watt, once you get into an argument with J.J. Watt as a coach with the guy who is considered, as All-American and sliced bread, you're probably going to get fired. You lost the team. He is one of the undisputed leaders. Him and Deshaun Watson, undisputed leaders of that Texans team. And if a head coach puts themselves into bad sights with those players, and the perfect storm is brewing around you, being 0-4, being a team that's given up massive amount of points, being a team that can't protect the $100 million quarterback they have, something's going to change. Being a team that traded away arguably the best receiver in the NFL, something's going to change. And it was that they got rid of his ass. And that's really what it boils down to. I mean, that is all in all, this guy lost the locker room. When you lose the locker room, your days are numbered. Your days are numbered, and I'm talking about you're in the single digits. And that's what happened. That's what happened here with Houston. Just was not a situation. And you look at it and you see that the guy has, he has on paper a pretty good resume as a head coach. But the problem with that is that a lot of that was, it wasn't as fruitful as you would have expected. I mean, they won the division a few times. They also had a winning record during his time as their head coach. But they had multiple first-round exits in the playoffs. The latest being an exit where they had a double-digit lead on Kansas City, and they proceeded to give up, I think, like 31 or 34 unanswered points. I mean, that's really bad in the playoffs. I mean, it's bad to lose a lead in the regular season. I mean, we've seen the Falcons do that numerous times. But this team has got literally they have got nothing working for them right now. Nothing. And to find out that they got into an argument during the course of practice, I don't think that really changes how people really feel. I think that kind of just confirms that the players just were not, even with their success, the players knew that this, that the head coach that they have was not the guy who was going to take them where they needed to be. I mean, he made crucial errors as a head coach. And I think that, there are there's another coach in the NFL who absolutely deserves a pink slip as well, and that's Matt Patricia. And that's somebody I'm going to be doing a video on here on my channel, breaking down just kind of his time as their head coach and what his teams in in Detroit with the Lions, have actually produced, because the other day, I believe he said something about he inherited a mess, or he inherited a team that needed a lot of work. And man, dude, fuck that. You inherited the team that you got, and you had 4 years to get the players you want in the door. Matt Patricia, 4 years of eating good, living fat, getting fatter, and you ain't done nothing to bring Detroit any kind of measurable success as a team. And, this is a production league. So how does he still have a job, but Bill O'Brien doesn't? That's, hey, different stroke, different folks. These are two different franchises that have two different philosophies on how to operate their team. So you're not going to get the same decisions made by the same in the same way. I mean, there's an argument. Why do I forget this cat's name right now? There's an argument that you could, you look at a situation like the Bengals head coach a few years back. Man, somebody give me his name. I forget his name. Let me look it up. Bengals head coaches. Marvin Lewis. There he is. You look at a guy like Marvin Lewis, who, I mean, I think maybe, I think it was maybe like 6 seasons in a row, maybe, or 7 seasons in a row, made it to the playoffs and got knocked out in the first round with Cincinnati. And they stuck with him. I'm telling you what, Marvin Lewis had loyalty from the franchise and sticking with him because, hey, you know what's worse than getting beaten in the first round every year in the playoffs? Not making the playoffs. So as a fan, we should all be cognizant of the fact that, hey, you might have a team that gets their ass kicked when they get into the postseason every year, but you have a team that gets their ass kicked in the postseason every year. Not every team in the NFL can say that. Not every fan base in the NFL can have that luxury. So, there really has to be, an understanding that regardless of everything, it's hard to win a football game in the NFL. It's hard. And, these teams are going to handle it how they see fit. Bill O'Brien's done because he made some bad mistakes, some really bad mistakes, and then you couldn't even back it up and get a win to at least, justify your decision making. You made a terrible, terrible trade, but you gave the quarterback $100 million, but you didn't give him anybody to throw the ball to. Can't do it by himself. So, definitely, I think a guy like Matt Patricia is another person who is just, he should have been out the gate, I think, after last season. I think that this year so far, you're already a quarter of the way through. If you were going to fire him, this week would have been the week to do it. If you're not going to do it now, then you got to go with him the rest of the season. I remember when Jack Del Rio got fired in Jacksonville. I think we only had 4 games left when they let him go. But, really, it boils down to, just the team's philosophy on how they operate. But I don't think it's a surprise here that J.J. Watt being in a heated exchange with him, I'm not surprised that it resulted in him losing the team, because that's usually what happens when you go after the leaders of a team and, on the level that those guys are leaders, you go after them and you're wrong, you're going to lose some respect. And that's what happened with him. Matt Patricia, he had a situation with Darius Slay last year where Darius Slay, basically, came out later and said, I lost all respect for him after that situation. And I think that he's a head coach that is on the verge of losing his entire locker room. You've got a quarterback whose career has literally been wasted away, and a receiver who is a Hall of Fame all-time great who just quit playing because he just was tired of it. Like, how long can you live in irrelevancy if you're a player in Detroit? Something needs to turn for this franchise, and Matt Patricia doesn't appear to be the guy to make that turn. So I'm going to be doing a breakdown on right now I'm trying to decide whether or not I'm going to do the breakdown on just him or if I'm going to make it a 3-coach carousel, which would be him, Adam Gase, and then Bill O'Brien, and just kind of profile the work that each one of those coaches has done with their franchise and if they're really worthy of being in the position they're in as a head coach in the NFL. So you guys keep an eye out for that. That's going to bring this edition of the Lineman Life podcast to an end. Really appreciate everybody for being here this afternoon. It's Wednesday. It's not there hasn't been a ton of news stories, but there were things that I wanted to talk about coming back from week 4 in the NFL. We still got the NBA Finals going on, Lakers and Heat. I'm rooting for the Heat. I got a problem with LeBron right now. And my problem with LeBron has always really kind of stemmed from, why do you keep going around trying to make super teams to get free rings? Why don't you be the leader of a team and stick with that team for the rest of your career and win as many as you can there? Stop bouncing around. Anyways. Neither here nor there. But I really appreciate you guys for being on the podcast, listening to the podcast. You guys are a great audience. Once again, think about joining the O-line. Hit that join button down below, and you can enter in at a number of different levels. We've got a couple of hogs on the squad right now. We've got a lot of camp bodies. I'm looking to get some more hogs, some more trench masters, some more trench hogs. We need the O-line nice and full with depth so that, we can continue to protect this channel and let us throw touchdowns over here. But I really do appreciate everybody for being here on the stream. Next week, going to try and get a guest on here, one that I've been trying to get on for a couple months now. But I'm going to keep squeezing him. He's an all-time legend. He's been recovering from, some medical surgery issues, I think, lately. So I've been giving him a little time to recover from that, but he's a football icon. I think you guys are going to like it. I'm going to try and get him on here next week, though. But as you guys know, every Wednesday, around 3 p.m., Lineman Life podcast, and also, I drop my videos on my channel pretty much daily during the week, and once on the weekend. So keep an eye out for that, and hit the like button. Make sure you smash that like button. But we will catch you guys on the next Lineman Life podcast. So everybody have a good day, and we will see y'all next week. Peace.